on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW. This is the Ross Kaminsky Show. Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
A couple of days ago, producer Shannon sent me a link to a fascinating article over at Politico.com in their magazine section. And the title is, Do Bots Have First Amendment Rights? And the subhead, Recent Supreme Court cases suggest yes. And that could be bad news for a new California law that requires bots to identify themselves. The whole thing is absolutely a fascinating intersection of the most modern of technologies and law. And so I'm just very pleased that we are now joined on our VIP line by the man who wrote that article. Laurent Sacharoff is a professor of law at the University of Arkansas School of Law. Good morning, Laurent. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Russ.
Listen, before we get to the bots and all of this, I need to ask you a much more important question. I read on your bio that you went to Princeton. And I went to Columbia. We played a football game at Princeton. I wasn't on the team then, but I went up and looked for Brooke Shields, who was at Princeton when I was in college. And I need to know, did you ever see Brooke Shields?
Yeah, I did once. I inadvertently emptied trash next to her. I didn't even realize I was standing next to her. I emptied my trash. I looked up, and there she was. Yeah, that was an era in which Brooke Shields was really a magnificent star, and had decided to go to college, decided to go to Princeton. And Princeton had a rule back then that everyone lives on campus no matter what, and that included her. And it was great. It made me probably happy, even though there's no real reason for it.
Yeah.
I, of course, didn't say anything. I was a young shy boy, but yeah, it brought me a little bit of joy.
Yeah, that's excellent. And you are the only person I've ever met or spoken to, including friends of mine who went to Princeton who never encountered her. You got to empty your trash next to Brooke Shields, and that makes you an absolute star in my mind. So, all right. Just had to talk about that. Okay, let's get to bots and First Amendment rights. So first of all, before we dig in, I think most of my listeners understand this already, but just as a foundational thing, please define bot.
Well, there are two kinds that are potentially at issue, but both chatbots and then that interact with human beings and talk, and general bots online are really just computer programs. And some bots are very simple, and many bots pervade the web all the time. So Google, for example, has these automated programs that will go on to every public website, billions, and determine what's on the site so that they can present search results. And these bots are really doing almost entirely what a human being could do, but scaled up exponentially. And so it'll go to the page, see what's on it, record it, and then bring it back to Google servers. And those bots are very ministerial, if you will. But then there are these more sophisticated chatbots that are becoming prevalent on a variety of platforms, and they engage the other person in a conversation. Now, most of them, and you've probably encountered them, most of them are pretty rudimentary, and after like 5 or 6 back and forth, you can tell that they're a bot because they can't really carry on a conversation. They kind of lose the track of the conversation, and it's very clear when they don't know an answer, and they'll have these oddly evasive questions. I mean, I like politics, and with a lot of them, I was saying before the election, I would say, so who do you think is going to win the election? And they'd say, well, I don't really get involved in politics, and so on.
So did you, when you were doing research, I suppose, that fits into all the stuff you're writing about, did you seek out bots to interact with online?
I did. I made some friends on Facebook with a variety of bots. I looked at some of the, leading One of them is for mothers who are new mothers who are buying clothes like bras that are helpful from new mothers who are feeding their children. And so that was, and I'm not a mother or a new mother, and so it was an interesting.
It is 2018, so you never know.
Well, yeah, sure. You know, I mean,
you never know what pronoun I should address you by today.
Yeah. No, it opened my identity in a way that I, briefly channeled my inner mother. But it was. And similarly with that and other bots, the conversation. I mean, they were just trying to sell me stuff.
Okay, so
that's fine.
That bot, and so let's stick with that one. The bot that tries to sell new moms particular bras. When you found that bot, did you go to that because you knew in advance that was a bot, or you started interacting with different accounts and figuring out which one's a bot?
The first, I went to a list. There are lists by various online magazines, like what are the top bots, chatbots this year.
Interesting.
And so I went to visit that. So I already knew it was a bot, so you could ask the question, well, if I hadn't known it's a bot, would I have figured it out pretty quickly?
Yeah.
I think the answer is yes. But what's interesting is that for me anyway, the reverse phenomenon happened with the Google duplex. Now that one's really good, and if you haven't had a chance, you can just go to their website and they have these demos of the tapes, and the bot will call on the telephone to a restaurant or to a hair salon and book an appointment. And the person on the other end of the line, at least in these demos, does not appear to know that it's a bot. And it is super realistic. And it was so realistic that I kind of started to want to think of the bot as a human being. With a pet, I was starting to anthropomorphize it. And so it was fascinating to have that feeling of wanting it to be real.
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt, and we're not going to go down this road because we got to talk about free speech, but I guarantee you that there will be some lonely men dating, bots with hot plastic bodies in the not-too-distant future who can give just enough good conversation, and I don't even want to think about the rest of it, but I guarantee you it's coming if it's not here already.
Yeah, there's definitely the sex bot angle, but I think there's also, and I don't disapprove. Everybody can do what they want,
right?
But I think that as in the movie Her, I think there's really going to be a need for the emotional and psychological connection and intimacy with a bot that's more than just supplying enough conversation for the other stuff, but where that's the main goal.
Right.
And that's a big part of the free speech part, is this idea that do people have a right to I mean, it's a weird way to think about it, but do people have a right to engage with bots on, in intimate relationships in such a way that they either deny to themselves it's a bot, or they kind of say in advance, I don't want to know. And then, this is sort of an extreme version. I don't really talk about this in my article, but if there's a bot disclosure law that requires bots to say they're bots, does one other method of thinking about why that's not solely a good thing is the realm of fantasy and the realm of what's coming next in terms of whether people even want to know.
Right. Okay, so now let's back up to let's back far away from guys dating bots and just talk about things that are sort of more common right now: Facebook, Twitter, perhaps other places where bots, including bots controlled by foreign governments, are spreading messages. Let's talk about political messages, whether they're true or not. The point we really want to focus on is that the message is being spread by a bot. So tell us what this new California law says, and then we'll go into whether you think the California law is constitutional and why or why not.
Sure. Just the context, of course, was Russia, and now perhaps a few other countries are using bots on big online platforms such as Facebook and Twitter to retweet, to amplify messages, political messages. And as you said, in some ways, the point isn't even that the message is true or false. The point is that it's amplified and distorts the conversation so that they drown out, the organic conversation amongst Americans. And so California has passed this law that goes into effect next summer that requires online bots that interact with human beings to disclose their bot nature. Now, it's limited to those bots that are either selling stuff or what's called electioneering, which is promoting a candidate in the run-up to the election. So it's only those two categories, and the California legislature narrowed it in response to certain, First Amendment critiques by various advocates. And so, so it requires the bots to announce their botness. And California is hoping that this will, provide some remedy to some of the problems that we've seen.
So there's an obvious question, both logistical and constitutional, about whether California has the ability to enforce a law on communications that are clearly interstate, right? This conversation that might happen in California or involve a Californian could also involve a bot that's sitting in, Arkansas talking to somebody in New York, and a Californian happens to be watching the conversation. So there's that. But what about the First Amendment? I mean, a bot isn't a person, so hard to say that a bot themselves has a right. But what about the right of the person who created the bot? Is there a free speech right there?
Yeah, I mean, really, in some ways, both. The first one is a little more complicated, but the second one is pretty straightforward. I mean, if you create a bot to simply repeat your own message, that's pretty clearly protected by the First Amendment, because that's simply your First Amendment right via the bot.
Right.
And so with a lot of these bots, you can really just stop there and say, look, the message of the bot, anyway, is protected by the First Amendment, whether or not we think of it as the right of the bot itself. But then the more, I guess, maybe science fiction, maybe futuristic legal thinking is, well, what about the bot itself? Does the bot have a First Amendment right? And does that make sense? And that question initially sounds ridiculous, of course, as your question implies, because bots aren't people. But corporations are not people, but they have First Amendment rights, even though they're abstract entities. And
but they're associations of people.
They're not exactly associations of people, and corporations do not have First Amendment rights as derivative of their owners, like the shareholders or of the board. It's the corporation itself that has the right, rather than as derivative of someone else. And that idea is what really leads to understanding the First Amendment in a different way. And most of us understand the First Amendment as simply the right of a person to express themselves. It's their right to the flourishing of their own personality by projecting it into the world. That's the right. But in reality, a lot of people believe, a lot of scholars think, that really the First Amendment is about the rights of listeners to gain information so that they can make smart decisions, and in a democracy, so that they can vote. Now, we put the right into the person who's speaking, because that's the appropriate practical place to have it. But the reason a person has the right to speak is really so that the rest of us can get the message. And so the Supreme Court has said corporations have free speech rights as a corporation, because we have the right to hear what they have to say so that we can make smart decisions about voting in particular. And again, it's not exactly just derivative of their owners. And that, by the way, this is true of religious rights too. The Hobby Lobby case, the government was trying to limit or require them to provide contraception in certain contexts, and they argued that violated the right of the corporation's religion rights not the rights of the owners of the corporation as derivatively expressed through the corporation.
Well, you're a lot smarter on
yeah.
this than I am, but I'm thinking that the truth is sort of in between there, in the sense that Hobby Lobby was very specifically about a closely held company, not a large publicly traded company. So I do think that in that case, the rights were really derivative of the First Amendment free exercise rights of the owners.
Well, take a look at the briefs and take a look at the case again, because the court, I mean, I'll take a look again, too, to make sure I'm right. But as I remember it, the argument was raised in two stages. One was it's a right derivative of the owners, and also then a separate argument was it's the right of the corporation. And the court went with the second.
All right, so we'll have to check that out. I've got about 90 seconds. Let's get back to bots. So do you think, is this California bot law already challenged in court, or can they not challenge it until it goes into effect? What's the status there?
As far as I know, it hasn't been challenged, and it's a great question because as a practical matter, one wonders who exactly is going to challenge it. The enforcement mechanism of the California law is also very unclear. So if it's never actually enforced, there won't be a lot of incentive for people to question it, either as defendants against whom it's being enforced or in advance as a plaintiff saying it's unconstitutional. Now, it's possible some of the online platforms will decide that they want to challenge it so that they don't run into trouble, but a lot of them are themselves exempted, and it's the bots that have to identify themselves, not the platform that's hosting them.
Wow.
So it'll be interesting to see whether this particular law gets challenged, but I think other states are going to be awfully tempted to pass something that's similar.
And I've only got about 30 seconds. If you were a betting man, would you bet that the California law, if it ends up facing the Supreme Court, will be upheld or overturned?
In this exact context, I think it may be struck down because, as Ryan Kalo said, he's a specialist in this. It's not narrowly tailored to the goal. The goal is to prevent drowning out other voices, and even if a bot does identify itself, it can still drown out other voices.
And we've got to leave it there. Our very special guest, Laurent Sacharoff at the School of Law at University of Arkansas. Check out his piece of Politico. Thanks, Laurent. We'll have you on again.
Thank you so much.
Sponsored by Lowe's.
Heavy and snow highways as you make the drive this morning. Some new problems down south in the Castle Rock area. It's an accident on the highway southbound I-25 approaching Toma Road. Traffic is jamming there. Metro Interstate's real busy. That includes I-25 in or out of the tech center downtown. Heavier up north. May have a problem on northbound I-25 up near 104th. An accident being reported there. In the Morrison area, had some deer struck. 6 cars involved in this accident. Northbound Highway 285 between Highway 8 and C470 over in that right lane. Then a forecast today, partly sunny with a high near 53. Cloudy tonight, low of 28. Right now it's 31 degrees. With the traffic and weather, I'm Susan Thielen, 630 KHOW.
Pros in the know start with Lowe's and save 5% on eligible purchases every day made with the Lowe's Business Credit Account. That's 5% savings in-store and online. Subject to credit approval. Cannot be combined with other credit offers. Exclusions apply. See store for details. U.S. only.
Hey, over at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, as I've told you, they help guys with sexual performance issues all the time, ED and premature issues and stuff like that. And they've helped guys from 18 all the way up into their 90s. I'm not kidding you. But while a lot of men are dealing with those issues, and while those issues really harm the lives of men who are suffering with them, I also want to make sure you understand that for a lot more men, there is a more common issue, and that is low testosterone levels in your bloodstream. Low levels of free testosterone, as they call it, the testosterone that is available for your body to use, that provides you energy and focus and the ability to recover after a workout and sleeping well and all this. And if you feel like you are suffering in any of those areas, and you're a guy, in your 40s, 50s, 60s now, I want you to get in touch with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic and let them just give you a quick, simple blood test. And then if you need help with testosterone replacement therapy, they can do that. Learn more at RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com.
Pat Miller, Gabby Gourmet. While the Bagel Deli remains the best This Saturday, folks from the Bagel Deli share 51 years of fun. That's Saturday, December 1st from 1 to 2 right here on 630 KHOW.
Visiting Angels is America's choice in senior home care. We believe your loved ones should never have to give up living at home. Visiting Angels provides personal home care up to 24 hours per day, including meals and light housework. Ask about our dementia care at home. You'll select your professional caregiver. Look up visitingangels.com or call 877-374-LIVE. That's 877-374-LIVE.
Visiting Angels, America's choice in home care.
If you or a loved one has been injured on the job in a car wreck or any other personal injury, turn to Mark Simon. Mark Simon's been helping Coloradans for over 28 years, from small cases to the largest workers' comp case in Colorado history. Mark won't hand you off to a paralegal like most attorneys. He works personally with you every step of the way. Call Mark Simon today. He's the lawyer I would call. 303-321-HURT. 303-321-HURT or coloradolawyer.net. coloradolawyer.net.
Don't miss the Trading Group Show, Sundays at 3 p.m. on KHOW. If you want to learn how to make money in the stock market, the Trading Group Show, Sundays at 3, or call 888-646-8787 for a free demo.
All money managers may seem pretty much the same. But while some money managers may recommend high commission investment products, Fisher Investments avoids them. Some money managers may have hidden and layered fees. Fisher Investments never does. And while some money managers are happy to earn commissions from you, whether you do well or not, Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when you do better. In other words, we're structured to be on your side. Maybe that's why most of our clients come to us from other money managers. Talk with us and find out why so many experienced investors are switching to and staying with Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments, clearly better money management. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss. Visit us at FisherInvestments.com to find out what we can do for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome back? Thank you very, very much for waiting. Would you welcome, please, the Rolling Stones?
Hi, this is Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones.
And I'm Keith Richards.
The Rolling Stones. Stones. No filter. The Stones are back on the road in 2019.
We look forward very much to seeing you.
Thanks for being there for us.
Tickets on sale Friday, November 30th at 10 a.m. at rollingstones.com and Ticketmaster.com.
Over at Alliance Leasing, they've helped so many of my listeners now, and I'm so grateful for that. They've helped so many of my listeners with vehicles for your businesses. And it's about so many things, right? It's about saving you money, right? Most small and medium-sized businesses just go somewhere and buy a vehicle, but that's not the best thing for you to do. When Alliance Leasing can typically acquire a vehicle for you for 10% on average, less on a $50,000 van, let's say, saves you $5,000. But there's more than that, because when you go buy the vehicle, you got to take the time to go to the dealership. Then you got to go to the DMV. Then you got to go get the tool chests or the logo on the vehicle. And you got to spend hours and hours that you could be using to make money. Alliance Leasing will do all of that for you. There's literally no downside to working with Alliance Leasing. I hope you will get in touch with them today. The website, alliance.lease. Alliance Leasing is your key to the perfect fleet.
On this episode of the Thrive Global Podcast with Ariana Huffington, Katie Couric sits down to discuss an array of relatable challenges and to celebrate the launch of Katie Couric Media. Ariana and Katie are also joined by Sleep Number CEO Shelley Eibach to discuss sleep and well-being. The Thrive Global Podcast is brought to you by Sleep Number. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed adjusts on each side, so it is perfect for both you and your partner. Experience the Sleep Number bed exclusively at one of their 550 stores nationwide. Check them out at sleepnumber.com/thrive.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Lillian Wu. Michael Cohen, the president's former personal attorney, making a surprise court appearance before a federal judge in New York, now pleading guilty to lying to Congress about a Trump real estate project in Russia. Cohen has already pled guilty in August to breaking campaign finance laws. He was scheduled to be sentenced for that case in 2 weeks. The president heading to the G20 summit in Argentina, where he's expected to sit down with the leader of China, which is locked in a trade war with the U.S.
What might the Trump-Xi Jinping bilateral produce? The hope is there will be progress, but frankly, there is pessimism here if you read the local papers, given the president's insistence that the playing field be level between the U.S. and Beijing.
That's Fox's Kevin Corke. This is a Fox News Alert.
This is Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW, an iHeart radio station. With Ross Kaminsky mornings, Kaplis and Kafer afternoons, KHOW Denver.
From the Fox Business Network, Americans were making a little more money last month and were spending. The government says personal incomes rose 0.5% in October. Spending increased 0.6%. More people were filing for unemployment benefits last week. The number of new claims increased by 10,000 to 234,000. It's considered a modest increase. As General Motors plans to close some plants, Volkswagen is planning a new factory in North America to build electric cars for the U.S. VW hasn't said yet where the plant will be located. It currently makes the Passat and Atlas in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And investigators in Germany have searched 6 different Deutsche Bank offices this morning looking for evidence of money laundering. 2 employees of the bank are suspected of helping clients to create offshore accounts to avoid paying taxes. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Ginny Cosola.
Imagining a better bank starts with looking at the savings rates most banks offer and saying, really? Capital One is building something better. You can open a Capital One savings account with one of the nation's best savings rates. From anywhere, like here, or here, or here. One of the nation's best savings rates. Opened online, at a Capital One location, or from anywhere. That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
For consumers only. Offered by Capital One N.A. member FDIC. Copyright 2018 Capital One.
So coming up, we're going to talk with Kurt Cambier, and then we're going to talk about something you should probably never, ever, ever do if you're hired to be a wedding photographer. And you're going to want to hear these things, but maybe you'll be getting out of your car, right, walking to your office building, whatever it might be, and you're going to want to hear it, but you need to step out. If you had your iHeartRadio app, you'd be able to just put an earbud in, you know, and walk into your office building or go into Home Depot and hear the great conversation that we're about to have. You know, maybe today, maybe another day. You can hear the podcast as well. So please go get your iHeartRadio app today. It's free wherever you get your apps.
Boyer's Coffee has the smoothest tasting cup in the Rocky Mountains. Look for Boyer's Coffee bulk varieties at your local Safeway store. Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer Weather Center.
Partly sunny today with a high in the low to mid-50s. Mostly cloudy overnight with a low just below freezing. Chance of rain or snow tomorrow and a high in the low 40s.
This report is sponsored by Account Temps.
Payroll, bookkeeping, month end. Are you feeling short-staffed? Account Temps can provide accounting and finance professionals on a temporary or project basis when you need them to help with increased workloads. Call them today or visit AccountTemps.com. Account Temps, a Robert Half company.
630 KHOW, an iHeart radio station.
Kurt offers securities through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., member FINRA SIPC, and advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Centennial Capital Partners are not affiliated.
All right, it's Thursday morning and the time of the day when we talk with our friend and our morning show partner, Kurt Cambier from Centennial Capital Partners. And on Thursdays, Kurt chooses his favorite listener question that he's received over the previous week and brings it to us, a question that is usually something that he thinks many listeners will find interesting and helpful. So with that, good morning, Kurt, and what you got for us this fine Thursday?
Well, this listener sent me an email regarding, actually it was regarding life insurance. It said a friend had recently had an old policy, an old whole life policy that was full of cash, and he had changed it to another policy and got what the friend had said was significantly more coverage and only had to pay a couple of years more premiums and would be paid up forever. And he wanted to know if that was really possible. And the answer is yes, it can be, and oftentimes it is, for several fundamental factors. The first factor is the mortality rates have been redone. Back in George Bush's last term, the government forced the insurance companies to redo mortality tables. They were using the 1980 mortality table, which went from 1880 to 1980. and obviously people are living a lot longer. So when they redid the mortality tables, the cost of insurance went down dramatically. That's number one. Number two,